Welcome!
Welcome!
Welcome.
Welcome! 333 years of colonization under the Spanish government had changed and redefined the values, beliefs, and stands of Filipinos. The way our ancestors move and speak must be noted. The hindrances of the time had been imprinted even now that we are in the 22nd century. Probably, these lessons of the past were taught to us through books and education, where it opened our minds to possible solutions on how to avoid these circumstances again. However, if you want to move forward, you must acknowledge the past. For today's segment, we gathered 5 questions that address the dilemma of gender inequality in the time of our national hero, Dr. Rizal, which could be related to his characters in his popular novels. Are you ready to get answers for the questions kept in your mind for a long time that been wanting to get answers? Then here is hashtag itanong mo sa Group E.
Pure characteristics of a woman because as per law. Interpretation by Rappler Philippines for today's video. Maria Clara is a symbol.
A few moments later.
Hermana amiga Vergüenza Marita Bayoyong asked on Twitter, Maria Clara is a prominent character in Rizal's novels. What could she have symbolized in Rizal society back then? Hashtag itanong mo sa Group E.
During our early school years, we are already informed about Jose Rizal's famous literary works in various subjects that we took. When Rizal's novels were already tackled, Maria Clara is one of the most prominent characters in Noli Me Tangere, and the character undeniably caught the attention of many, for she is one of the most remembered character up until today. But let us not deny the fact that many of us are too young to realize the true symbolism of those characters back then. So today, we will talk about the symbolism of Maria Clara in the society and how her role influenced the stigmas that many women face today. According to collegereviewbooks.com, Maria Clara symbolizes the innocent and pure characteristics of a woman because as per Rizal's description, she is a beautiful, kind, responsible, and timid, which happened to be a description of an ideal dalagang Pilipina in the modern generation. But apart from those characteristics, she is also a character where we can see the unjust treatment for women during those times. If we will analyze the novel in the deeper perspective, her character is far from the fantasy that many people think of. She is a woman who was educationally and economically deprived. She is a dreamer that has been taken advantage of the people she trusted, and she is a woman whose rights are taken away from her. The sad reality is, the world that she lived was cruel, in a way that she didn't expect at all. We all know that Dr. Jose Rizal used his talent in writing to tell the world about the real story of what the people have experienced during those times. And from that, we can tell that being a woman in that era is not easy, especially if you didn't come from a rich and respectable family. Women in that generation doesn't have access to education and they cannot fight for what is right and what they deserve because their voices are suppressed. They are not given the authority to make decisions because patriarchy rules the world back then. In a modern interpretation by Rappler Philippines, the ideal character that has been fed to most of us are actually the opposite of the concrete picture that has been formed in our minds about Maria Clara, which is beautiful and pure. But on the other hand, the rediscovered version described her as a candid, teasing, melancholic, and stubborn woman, way far from the modest picture in our minds. Sadly, it is now hard to remove the stigma in the heads of the Filipinos, especially in the older generations, because the Maria Clara that was put in the pedestal to please people became the standard of what a Filipina should be and how a Filipina should act. Because in their eyes, that is what is right, and until then, the Dalagang Filipina term was considered as a trait. However, it is uplifting to see how the women progress over the years, and we can be proud because the stigmas are slowly being broken down from generation to generation. Thanks to the honorable people who fearlessly fought for the freedom of women away from the strong grip of patriarchy, we can now enjoy the freedom in education, somehow equal opportunities, and progressing in positive treatment in the society compared to Rizal's time. In my personal opinion, Maria Clara is a symbolism that women are belittled in the society, even though in reality, we can do the things that other genders could, or sometimes we exceed the standards. Just like her, women are victims of injustices, and it is very hard for us to fight, especially in a conservative country like the Philippines. We cannot wear what we want because there will be eyes that will target you and mouths that will judge you. We cannot voice out our vulnerable side because some people will invalidate you and mock your feelings when you just want to be heard. Luckily, people of today are more open and accepting where not just women but also other genders can be confident of who she or what they are. Maybe the revisited version of Maria Clara is right. We are candid, teasing, melancholic, and stubborn. Or maybe the older generation is also right. We are modest and timid at the same time. But you know what? In our society today, I think that there is no right and wrong definition of a dalagang Pilipina. Because all women today are celebrated regardless of what have influenced their way of being themselves.
So as we... No! Hi! Hi! So, my question is, what are the inequalities that women face during Rizal's time? So, as we all know, the Philippines has long been a country of contradictions due to its prominent traditions and the underlying scars of colonialism. The conflict continues to have an impact on Filipino society to this day. Even though women in our country are regarded as among the most progressed in comparison to women in other nations, they still frequently face inequalities as a result of stereotyping, double standards, sexism, and the history of colonialism in our country. Before the Spaniards colonized the country, the Philippines was thought to be an egalitarian society with women valued and viewed as equal to men. But when the Spaniards arrived, they brought with them their patriarchal ideas regarding women, which slowly enveloped into our culture. Furthermore, according to Juliet de Lima's study paper, women's oppression was a result of colonialism, which reinforced the belief that women are to stay at home and reproduce. During Rizal's time, women were confined to their homes and their tasks were limited to doing chores. On the other hand, there was this chivalrous notion that men should provide for their families and protect their women. Women were also taught to be obedient to males and to be compliant to elders. They were encouraged to stay pure until marriage and to focus on developing skills that would enable them to be excellent daughters, housewives, mothers, and God's servants. Women were also forbidden for engaging in political activities since it was seen to be a men's area. Filipinos were raised in a religious and patriarchal environment that emphasized men's ownership over women. So these inequalities may be noticed or seen in Rizal's works. Rizal was pressured to battle with the challenge of seeking solutions to address women's oppressions and discriminations through his writings. He also attempted to bring his sisters and other women into the political area. Hence, his fictional female characters like Maria Clara and Narcisa, or also known as Sisa, can be seen as representative of how colonialism and patriarchy destroyed the roles of women. There are also interpretations that Maria Clara symbolizes the Philippines' unhappy state during the Spanish rule. Moreover, he also made a letter entitled to the young women of Malolos, which he praised the ladies of Malolos for their bravery to establish a school to learn Spanish despite the contradictions of the Spanish parish priest of Malolos.
Were women allowed to get a higher education in Rizal's time? The Spanish colonization of the Philippines has actually changed a lot in our country. One of the major impacts of it was how women were treated in our society. That you see, during pre-colonial times, men and women were seen as equals. They were given the same opportunities as each other. But when the Spaniards came, all of that has changed. They brought with them their own set of beliefs and ideas on what a woman's role is in society. And they changed how women are seen and treated in our country, basically. For one, Filipino women were suppressed. The Spaniards believed that a woman's place is in the home, tending to their husbands and caring for their children. They weren't given the same opportunities as men, especially in terms of education. Good quality education was, at the time, only readily available for men. Though some women were able to attain vocational education, most of them weren't able to attain the same level of education as men at the time. Now, let's compare that to the modern day period, like today. Women are able to get academic degrees, post-baccalaureate degrees, and even go to prestigious schools such as the likes of UST. And in fact, women excel more than men in the academic setting. This just shows how much women value their education. Our generation continues to develop and improve our way of life through different innovations, and that is in part a result of the equal opportunities for both men and women in terms of education. And this reflects upon Rizal's beliefs that in order for the future generation to prosper, there must be an equal opportunity for both sexes to attain educational rights. Now, the women of today continue to make an impact in our society. From being able to save lives as a doctor, to leading an entire nation and ousting a tyrannical dictator. These milestones wouldn't have been possible without proper education and equal opportunities for women.
The smallest Was there any involvement of women in politics during Rizal's time? During our history class when we were in elementary, we tackled who are the people that controls the country when we were in the hands of Spaniards. The smallest unit was the Cabeza de Barangay, who manages the barrios. All the information disseminated comes from the King of Spain. We could see that these are ruled by men and there were no traces of female in the branch of this government. Women were also forbidden from engaging in political activities since it was seen as the man's domain. This could be supported with the statement of Abao and Yang in 1998. During the Spanish period, women joined the Katipunan, clandestine resistance movement in the fight against colonization. They battled with men and gained valuable political knowledge and abilities. Such battle enabled women to transcend beyond the customary roles, in example, homemaker and caregiver, placed on them by the strongly patriarchal Spanish rule. By the time of the American occupation, a sizable percentage of Filipino women had obtained an education. These ladies urged and rallied other women to struggle for the right to suffrage in the goal of further eroding their status as second-class citizens. Until then, only literate men could vote and seek for government. The suffragist movement paved the way for women to enter politics. Women were ultimately granted the ability to vote in 1937. The 1935 Constitution stated the women's suffrage would be granted only if 300,000 women voted in favor of it in a nationwide plebiscite. We therefore say that the capability of women leading and choosing what's the best for their country has been put aside. That women during the Spanish era which is supported their husband, that their role is only facilitating the chores. Maybe if we were already alive during that time, we should offer the unfair treatment. But it was not that easy. The women who stood up that will be introduced in the latter part of our segment were courageous enough to point the inequality of the government. Yet, the fight for the involvement in politics does not end here. The number of women who experienced suffering during this Japanese time had also fought, which gradually increased as the dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr. started his regime. Women can't lead, but who was the one responsible for removing the dictator on his position after almost 20 years of leadership? It was led by a woman. The voices of the female shouldn't be suppressed because we all have our fair shares of rights, so why would we rob them the chance to choose who will administer the country and locally? If ever women are stereotyped, bear in mind that the mother of our national hero had to walk for miles just because of opposing the state as a punishment. We therefore see that the capability of women leading and choosing what's the best for their country has been put aside. That women during the Spanish era was just supported of your husband, that their roar, I got the eye of the tiger, stood up. Who were the prominent women during Rizal's time? According to Palafox in year 2012, Filipinos were raised in a religious and patriarchal educational environment that stressed the domestic work of women as men's property. This incorporation of Spanish culture into the Philippine norms and behavior demonstrates feudal social relations. A group of young women in Malolos, Bulacan took part in a peaceful movement for educational reforms in the second half of the 19th century. This spectacular event demonstrated this women's capacity for political and social revolutions. The authority enacted educational policies that discriminated against women who wanted to further their education. The women of Malolos worked hard to disprove the notion that women are destined to be housewives and to show that women can compete with men in other fields of endeavor. The women of Malolos endeavor is regarded as one of the most significant events in the growth of the country's feminist movement. The Spanish occupation of the Philippines introduced the idea that women should be regarded as inferior to the men. As a result, they must always stay at home and hide behind their fathers, brothers, or husbands. However, this did not prevent them from achieving their aims, as some of them proved everyone wrong by participating in the revolutionary movement culminating in the end of the country's 3-century reign of the Spanish Empire, and one of them was Marina Dizon. Marina Dizon, along with other women, as one of the first women to join the revolutionary organization after undergoing the initiation led by Andres Bonifacio in July 1893. She eventually rose to the position of active secretary for women in the society. The importance of women in the Katipunan was visible at meetings conducted by Katipuneros. They acted as lookouts and occasionally utilized their beauty and abilities to entice the Guardia Civil who came close to the meeting location. Marina was also involved in the initiation of new members. She led missions, hid various important documents, and taught other women the importance of courage in protecting the Katipunan secret. Despite living during the Spanish colonialism, when women were supposed to be devout and unconditionally obedient, Teresa Magbano was constantly hungry for action and fearless in the face of any male. Magbano comes from a wealthy family and was able to complete her education at one of Manila's most prestigious all-girls schools. Magbano joined the rebel army with her uncle and two brothers when the revolution against Spanish colonists erupted in her region of Iloilo. She rose to the position of commander of the Northern Zone. Magbano led her troops of rifle sharpshooters and bolomen to victory at the Battle of Barrioting in Pilar Capiz during the Spanish era. Trinidad Texan, unlike other girls her age, chose to learn fencing instead of sewing and embroidery when she was younger. Her sense of self-importance was crucial to her. Texan participated in a dozen conflicts, the most significant of which being the Battle of Biak na Bato. They successfully stopped the invasion by guarding the entrance to the fort of Biak na Bato with her husband. This earned her the title Mother of Biak na Bato. Texan was also notorious for seizing firearms and smuggling food into the troops' quarters. When she was apprehended, she was able to subdue the guards or flee by pretending to be dead. Texan also volunteered to help injured Filipino troops, earning her the title Mother of Philippine Red Cross. For Rizal, youth is a flower bed that must give fruit and accrue riches for future generations. The mother must raise her children in the image of God and direct their minds toward pleasant thoughts. A mother must educate her children that death with dignity is preferable to life with dishonor. Mothers should instill in their children on the following values: honor, true and solid character, clear thought, clear behavior, noble deed, love for one's fellow men, and reverence of God. Always patriotic, he cautioned that the country would never be free and prospering as long as children and women remained illiterate. As a result, children's education should not be limited for religious activities. He emphasized the ultimate values that one must possess are obedience and reason. Roar!